Hi everyone, Charity Preston here from the Organized Classroom blog. I hope everyone is well today. So today's teaching tip has to do with being able to cut down on the amount of grading that you're doing. Now there are some things like writing essays and things like that you're just not going to get around. I'm sorry, you're going to have to do those. And if you are a writing teacher, you are going to be doing a lot of those. I'm sorry to tell you guys, but there are a few other things that you could do if you are in, let's say, a self-contained classroom or someplace that has a lot of multiple choice assessments. So that way you are not spending the entire weekend, or at least Sunday evening at 9 o'clock, grading everything to try to get caught up. So one thing to do is definitely, if you have parent volunteers and there's no district policy against a parent volunteer seeing students' tests and their assessments, I find it wonderful to use a parent volunteer to grade homework for me. Now, I do a homework packet, so on Fridays when the homework packets would come in, I would have a parent volunteer there and they would go through and grade the homework packets and let me know how that went. So that way, I saved so much time. They were fantastic about checking to see which students had it in, which ones didn't, going to talk to those students, finding out where the homework was. It was something that I didn't have to worry about. Okay, now the other thing that I do, once again, I went with the idea of don't, ask for permission. I want to beg for forgiveness rather than asking for permission first. So I never asked for permission, but I never had any complaints either whenever I taught third grade in doing this. And what I would use was a system called Trading Grade. Now, I would only use this system whenever I had an assessment that was a multiple choice assessment. So even for my weekly comprehension tests from my Basel series, we would use this system. And how it works is when everybody gets finished with their test, everybody has to be done for this to work. Everybody passes it up. I collect them all. Then all pencils, pens, any kind of writing utensils are put away. They're underneath the desk. They're not anywhere where they can get their hands on them. I physically would take the supply caddies off of the middle groupings of desks so that there was no way that they were getting something in their hand to be able to change an answer for. And what they would do is they would actually get one crayon. Now the crayon couldn't be white or yellow because you needed to be able to see it on the paper, but they would pick one crayon, and that's what would be their grading tool, is one crayon. So then I would go through and pass back out all of the tests to different students. Now what I typically did was I would pick, if it was a girl's test, I would give it to a boy. If it was a boy's test, I would give it to a girl. Why? Because I taught third grade and typically they weren't best buds. So you know your students the best, you know which ones are going to try to sneak through and cheat for each other, so you don't want to give them to their friends, and it's okay. So then what the students do is they, at the bottom of the test, I always did it at the very bottom of the test, they had to write their initials in crayon. That way I knew, and I always told the students, if you make a mistake and mark something wrong or miss something, I'm going to take that amount off of your test. Now, did I ever do that? No, I never once did that, because chances are it was probably an honest mistake, but I always threatened that I would, just so that they were aware of it and knew that there would be consequences if they just kept goofing off and not keeping up and paying attention with what the answers were. So then what they would do is, with their crayon, all that they would do is they would go through and I would read the letter answers. So I'd say, okay, number 1 is A, and they had to have their finger on the correct number, check. If it was A, they were good, they could put their finger on number 2. If number 1 wasn't A, they would take their crayon and mark a line through the A. So now, not only do we know how many are wrong, because all we have to do is count the lines, but the correct answers are already marked. So that way I don't get any later of, well, number 1 is marked wrong, but I don't know what the answer is. Or number 1 is marked wrong, but I know A was the answer. Well, I can go back through and easily find the answers without having to look every single one up. So, once you get your students trained to do this, it's fantastic. So then they would go through, we would do every single one of them. You have to go, a little slower when you're first starting, whenever you're training to do this. After a while, it's just second instinct. They grab their crayons, they mark their initials, they're ready to go, they're focused on you, they're paying attention to what the letters are going to be called out. Whenever they're finished with it, they count up how many are on, they mark it up there for at the top, however many were missed. Then they actually would pass it back to the owner. Now, once again, if your district has a policy about privacy and students not being able to know other students' grades, or if a parent complains, you're not going to be able to do this. It's going to depend completely on your classroom, probably from year to year, and depending on your district and your community, it really is going to depend. Some school districts aren't going to blink, they're not going to think twice about this. It's fine, you're getting it done, the students, whatever. Other districts are going to be way more strict about this policy. So use your best judgment. You're the classroom teacher. You know what's going to fly and what's not. So then they hand it back to the students. And the thing that I liked the most about this was because students got immediate feedback on that test. They just finished taking. They didn't have to think about it. They can see automatically what they received. Minus, I always save the last two short answer, extended response answers. I graded those myself. So they didn't really know exactly what their score was going to be yet, but they were able to look at the multiple choice and see what they had going on there. So they could kind of look through, see what they missed, yay or nay, be prepared for it. Whenever it came around again, they kind of already had a heads up as to what they received and what they needed to work on. And we would talk about several. As I was saying the answers, I rotated through the classroom first to make sure the students were staying on task and I didn't have people not paying attention to what I was saying. And secondly, I would look to see how many red marks there were or how many crayon marks there were for a certain number. So if I'm walking around and I see that everyone just about got a mark next to number 8, we need to go back as a class and look at that one. And I can do it right then and there immediately and give them some feedback on it and let's talk about this and whatnot. Okay, so then whenever that is finished, all of the papers come to me before I ever put the supply caddies back on the tables. I don't want anybody still. I don't want pencils in anyone's hands. So every single test has to be in my hand before I allow the group leaders to go grab the caddies again, and then they can put their crayons away and have their pencils. Now what I have is a nice stack that's for the most part 80% graded, maybe even 90% graded. All I have to do is grade those last 2 questions and then come up with the final percentage and slap it right in my grade book. So that works great if you have multiple choice, or if you just have a quick little quiz that you wanted to do, if you wanted to do a status check and see what they have going on. Trading grades, sometimes I would even say trade with your diagonal partner. So if they're in a group of 4, whoever's diagonal from them, they would trade real quick and just grade it. If it's not for a grade in the grade book, that was an easy way to do it. Once you teach kids how to trade and grade, now kindergartners, not so much. Probably not going to be able to do this, guys. Sorry. But some of the older grade levels, I did it with 3rd grade. I could see it being done in 2nd grade, even if you have students that are ready to do that. Probably not at the beginning of the year, but perhaps by the end of the year. And then 3rd grade, definitely all the way up. So trading grade is a little system that I've done. For other ideas for how to cut down on your grading, look straight below this video and you'll see either a link to head back to my blog, or you'll already be on my blog, or there'll be a link to the item for a free ebook, because I posted the same question, or I posed the same question to all of my Facebook fans of how do you cut down on the amount of grading that you do, and they had some fantastic ideas that I put all together into a little freebie ebook for you, and you can take a look at that and see if you can get some more ideas, so that way you're not spending all weekend doing the grading. All right, I hope you've enjoyed, and I will talk to you again soon. Definitely come back, visit us at our Facebook fan page and at our website, www.theorganizedclassroomblog.com. Thanks so much, everyone. We'll talk to you again soon. Bye.